Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us again. This is, well, it's not the last session. We call this a closing session. There's plenty more of really interesting sessions this afternoon that we hope you can join us in various rooms around. You have the details. We're talking about buildings, we're talking about industry and other topics, and we look forward to that. And we've had many good sessions this morning on a number of topics, not least investment and finance. And we also had a meeting of our Clean Energy Labour Council this morning. We're bringing together union representatives. And of course, this follows on from what I hope you agree, it's not just me who thinks it was an excellent day yesterday, where we had many good panels and discussions on many topics, not least, of course, affordability, but also the pushing on action, and a number of thematic sessions, and also a couple of special meetings. And I would tell you that some of us were together yesterday for a meeting among the ministers that are with us, and we had a very good roundtable discussion. And just in an hour or two, you'll see a statement that the ministers came together to agree, and I think you'll see a very strong reaffirmation of the commitment to the doubling target, but also a recognition of the wider dimensions of energy efficiency in terms of the connections to many of our themes here today: affordability, competitiveness, energy security, and things like that. And also this morning there was a really, what I hear is an excellent meeting of the CEOs, the CEO roundtable, led by our very collaborative and very important partner, the energy efficiency movement. And I think we'll hear a bit of feedback from that. And of course, we're delighted to be again in the presence of His Majesty King Laisi III, the King of Lesotho, who has been with us, very generous with his time over the last few days, but also very generous with his thoughts yesterday evening on this stage, where we heard some really important keynote from His Majesty. And thank you again, Your Majesty, for being with us. So in this session, because our theme really for the last couple of days is about dialogue, a global dialogue. We have 100 countries with us at the conference this year, but it's also about dialogue between industry and government. And we thought for this thematic session, before we're joined by Commissioner Jurgensen to say a few formal closing words, we would bring two of each species together on stage to talk about the government perspective and the industry perspective. And I'm delighted that we have four excellent panelists with us, and I'll just tell you who they are in order that they're here. First of all, we have Ursula Zielinska, who's the State Secretary of Energy in Poland. And Ursula, thank you for being with us yesterday and today. We're delighted to have you here. And then next we have Anne-Laure de Chamard, who's the Executive Vice President of Siemens Energy. Anne-Laure, thank you for being with us. And then we have a very special guest, Luis Felipe Ramos, who's the Deputy Minister of Energy in Chile, and among other things wins the award for the most dedicated participant today, having had a really epic journey to be with us, involving urgent plane changes and unexpected stopovers and things like that. So, Minister, we're delighted, and we really do respect your commitment in being with us, and having just arrived a few minutes ago and joining us straight away on stage. So thank you for being with us. And finally, last but certainly not least, one of the key actors, not just in efficiency industry, but of course in the energy efficiency movement, and that's Morten Verad, the Chief Executive Officer of ABB. Morten, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So, colleagues, I'm going to ask you each just to say a few words of your thoughts of what you've been hearing, or what your thoughts are on these issues around energy efficiency. And Ursula, I think I'll start with you, if that's okay. So you've been here for several of the sessions. You were here for the ministerial yesterday. Different colleagues will have been in different meetings. So maybe any of the things that struck you as interesting, anything you'd like to share, please.
Thank you very much, first of all, and I hope you will hear me, because I keep fiddling with my headset, and I hope it's working. Yeah, I think it is. Good morning, and thank you very much for bringing us all to this great event. Energy efficiency, but generally, I think cooperation, and the global cooperation that we have here, thanks to IEA, is amazing, and is so important these days. I think it's especially important at the times of the geopolitical challenges that we're facing. We have this need of dialogue, and bringing 100 countries here and today to talk about energy efficiency, to talk about energy transition, has an immense value. So big thank you again to you, Brian, to Dr. Fatih Birol, to IEA for bringing us here. much appreciated. What we discussed yesterday and today in many sessions is the ambition on energy efficiency as a basis for energy transition. It's the most effective mean to transition from fossil fuel-based energy systems to net zero energy systems to improve our quality of life. It's the cost-effective way, and we have set ourselves ambitious goals to achieve that. 2 years ago, no, that's almost, yeah, that's still 2 years ago in Dubai at COP, we've 200 countries joined a global call to double the energy effectiveness, energy efficiency from 2% to 4%, and we're not there yet. We actually, when we look at IEA data, and IEA is amazing at providing really robust data, we're lagging behind at about 1% energy efficiency improvement year on year, and that's too slow. So the very clear call that sounded loud and clear yesterday, also raised by young people, non-governmental organizations, civil society who was with us at the table, was you have to move faster, you have to accelerate. And this is my takeaway from here. I hear it loud and clear. We have to be bolder and move faster in that respect to achieve Paris Agreement, to achieve our commitments we made 10 years ago, and they're vitally important. That's to stop overheating, to stop seeing climate catastrophes unfolding in front of our eyes. And it's very hot outside here today, and we're sitting here in this comfortable room consuming a lot of energy to keep ourselves cool. Once we're outside, we really feel the heat, and I think that temperature and that weather should keep reminding us why we're here and what we need to achieve and how we need to accelerate. And the best time to do it is now, when we still have that comfort of this cold room to do so. So we've discussed ways and means of achieving that, and among others, we received an amazing toolkit that shows us examples from around the world of countries, public sector together with business sector cooperating in types of ESCO schemes, so public-private agreements and ventures. And I really encourage everyone to download that toolkit and to look at those case studies, because thanks to you, thanks to IEA, we have a whole plethora of great examples. We have also, representing Poland, I have shared some of the examples from my country. We have introduced a so-called energy efficiency scheme, so-called white certificates. It's working. It's not working fast enough. So we're now looking to accelerate that and make it incentivize investment more as opposed to just paying the fees to the government for the energy saving that I should achieve as an energy company. So this is something we're working on. We have some great examples of public-private cooperation as well in that respect. And also we have some great legislation in the European Fit for 55 package. Yes, it's challenging, yes, it's ambitious, but actually now that we're measuring our progress against the 4% goal that we want all to achieve globally, we're really starting to see the value of legislation like the Fit for 55 legislation that we have in European Union. That really helps us to deploy those changes. And then there is financing. I think we'll talk about that in a second, so I won't dwell on this now. But overall, I want to say we're making progress, and it's great. We're not making progress fast enough, so we need to accelerate. And we have a really already quite a great database of amazing examples from Japan through Europe to South America and other parts of the world, thanks to IEA, that we can draw upon. And this is what I'm walking away from this meeting, from yesterday and today, back to my country government to deploy and share more of those examples. So thank you again for bringing us together, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Ursula. And in fact, some people might say we're keeping ourselves a bit too cold in this room right now, but that's maybe a lesson for all of us. And Laura, please, what are your thoughts?
So maybe, I mean, building on what Minister Zelenska was saying, if you look overall in the previous years of everything we've done around energy transition, we've been investing in renewables like never. I mean, the amount of investment everywhere in the world has been huge. And despite that, fossil fuel consumption and energy demand has grown up. Yeah? And we see that it will continue that way in the years to come. So the energy transition is not just about building new renewables as much as we can. Building new renewables is only going to be able to capture part of the energy demand that is happening because of the huge growth happening in the world. The only way to curve that emission curve is energy efficiency. And nothing's happening there, or actually, as you were saying, not enough at all. So we were discussing in the CEO roundtable with the industry on how can we actually scale and accelerate what is the actions that we need to do, and also how we can get support on the regulatory side to be able to do more with less. And I think there's 4 things that came out from this discussion, which is first, and so I thank the people who were actually doing these, sharing these thoughts. So I'm just repeating what I heard from the roundtables. First of all, we need to change the narrative and increase awareness. Awareness will drive action for government, for industries. And it's about showing that it's not just about, stopping waste of energy. It's actually about also making industry competitive and resilient. And this is more and more important in the current geopolitical situation in the world. Second topic, regulation should stay the course. And many of us in this roundtable were really saying we need visibility, we need clarity, we need predictability. These are long-term investments. We need to be able to invest for the long term, knowing that this investment will pay. Otherwise, industry will not move fast enough. Third thing, we need to start embedding energy efficiency in the design at the start of any project. And there we can have help. Public procurement should be based on the total cost of ownership and not just on the CapEx side. Otherwise, energy efficiency will always come second. And finally, energy efficiency does not stop at national borders. And if we don't start harmonizing regulation globally on that topic, or at least at continental level, we will never get the scales to be able to develop the right technologies and the right movement and investment for that. So these were a little bit the 4 takeaways that we had on how to be able to accelerate and double down on the energy efficiency by 2030.
Great, thank you. It sounds like you had an excellent discussion. We're looking forward to hear more of it. So let me go next to Minister Ramos. Minister, again, thank you for joining us, and please, happy to hear your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the EAA for the opportunity to be here in the close of the Global Conference of Energy Efficiency. Well, I'm representing Chile, and Chile, as a country, is advancing towards full membership in the EAA, and we're here to reaffirm our strong commitment to this vital work, and also this would form part of our joint working group, working program, and we look forward to consolidate this strategic partnership soon. My country, Chile, has an energy efficiency law that sets ambitious targets to reduce the energy intensity by 13% by 2030 and by 30% in 2050. This roadmap reflects not only a technical approach, but also a deep commitment to equity. And the results are very clear because in 2022, we achieved energy savings of more than 41,000 gigawatt. That's the equivalent to 50% of the country's total electricity generation. Well, and that's is the equivalent to removing 4.8 million vehicles from circulation. However, we still have a lot of challenges remain. For example, unequal access to efficient technology, financing barriers, and the need to accelerate also the renovation of the building stock to continue to be a relevant obstacle. But in Chile, we have also have implemented concrete policies to overcome these barriers. And we're among the first country in Latin America to establish minimum efficiency standards. And through the energy labeling and building certification, we are transforming the market toward more accessible solutions. But I would like to say especially that the real impact of these policies is seen when they reach local communities. For example, we have a program named Mejor Escuela, Better School, and by this program we have benefit over 15,000 students and 53,000 members of the educational communities, improving terminal comfort, reducing energy consumption, and lowering emissions. With this program, we work on the infrastructure of public school, and we put energy efficiency standards. And these public policies not only enhance the educational process, but also strengthen communities and prepare our infrastructure to climate change. And in that context, energy efficiency goes beyond the technical figures when people are placed in the center, because the challenges are global, but the solutions are built locally. And in every household that's saving electricity in its electricity bill, or in every classroom that improving the learning conditions, we are making a real way to the people get to know more how this public policy and how the energy efficiency can change the lives in a concrete way. So I would like to say finally that we believe that through the strong public and private cooperation, we can accelerate this transition more into a more just, efficient, and sustainable energy future.
Thank you very much, Minister. It's great to hear that. That's fantastic. Morten, first of all, thank you for such excellent collaboration on this conference. Thanks to you, ABB, and also Alfa Laval, and all of the members and the executive committee of the energy efficiency movement. It's been a delight to work with you and really facilitating this conversation which we're discussing now in terms of governments and industry from around the world talking together. So what has stood out for you?
No, again, thank you for inviting us here, Brian. I think and also the collaboration here with the International Energy Agency and the energy efficiency movement, which I think is was really the intent of creating this movement where industries and also both from academia and all the sectors comes together and can discuss. And energy efficiency is on the midst of what we do in ABB. It's we are all about electrification and automation, and I see this as two sides of the same coin when you talk about energy efficiency. We often talk there about the demand side, where energy is consumed, but it also have a huge impact on the power generation, how it's in all forms. And today, energy efficiency, a big part of the efficiency comes from changing energy, going from fossil-based, for instance, on large cruise ships today. You have, before with shaft generation, today we have electric propulsion on all the large cruise ships in the world. It's one how you can save 30% of energy by using electrification of the propulsion system. We have all these examples that is happening. That's how we save energy on from changing energy forms using electrification. But another, I think, big part of what we do here is, of course, how we save electricity, because this is where we see the massive stress now of the power grid in every parts of the world, in the, let's say, in developing markets, because we are putting in much more electricity consumption in the form of data centers and just kind of, and with that electrical trend that is going on all over the world. In addition to the new developing countries and markets where you see a big increase of when you see people coming out of poverty or middle class is growing, which is positive, but it always comes up in higher energy consumption. You mentioned already here that it's getting warmer, which means also the use of HVAC, which is one of the big units or big sectors that is in buildings which is demanding a lot of energy. So here is kind of where we need to, I think we need to address the whole energy topic very much on regional basis, and looking at this both what is in the kind of the developed and the newly and the developing countries, because those two will have some different challenges, both from a green and brownfield point of view. So, and also what we mentioned about how do we look at the total cost of ownership, which is really what's the regulations and how do we make decisions when it's new and we build it, and how do we look at the cost of operating. And there is the practical example that somebody is building the house to get the cost low, and somebody is going to live in the house which wants a low operating cost. But these two things doesn't always go together, especially commercial buildings. So I think this is an area that we need to get energy efficiency again even higher on the agenda and the public agenda. That's why we did, as ABB, were one of the founders together with Alfa Laval to creating the energy efficiency movement. It was I was one of the founding fathers, and it was a bit out of frustration that we are making bad decisions every day. And this is more than 5 years ago now. Unfortunately, we're still making the same bad decisions. We're buying equipment that is cheaper to replace when it's new than even to put it operation because you made the wrong choice. That was a bit of my frustration when we started the energy efficiency movement. And it's really to look at how do we get the awareness and the clarity among decision makers that this needs to be considered every day. Yes. Because and the good news is that technologies exist. We know really what to do. There is, in most cases, a very interesting business case. And that's kind of, so this should be kind of a slam dunk. But I think at times it needs also to be, the whole energy efficiency need to be a bit more of a sexy topic. It needs something that we all like to talk about, and it's something which is driving business, is the right thing to do. And I say, if you save money and you save emission, normally that should be a no-brainer decision. So I hope also events like this and all what we're doing here is what can drive more focus on energy efficiency, because that is really what is needed now.
We hope so too, certainly. Thank you. And when you speak about decision makers there, Morten, are you thinking more of like investment decision, the business leaders, or are you thinking of policy makers?
I think it's both. When it comes to, I think the general awareness is for everyone. Mm-hmm. Policy makers, I don't believe that policies will only do it. We know that, especially today around the world. We are running as ABB a global company. I use different arguments when I go and meet our large customers in the United States than what I do when I go to my home country of Norway. This is just how the world is today. But one thing that everybody is interested to know more about, how do I become more productive? How do I become, more profitable as a company if you're running a business? And if it's a good business case behind, you don't need to say any kind of the benefit is that this is most for companies who have sustainability and carbon emissions high on their agenda. This is kind of a double winner. So I think that's but for me, I always thought this is a great business case. And we have some examples, if I can mention that. We made a world record as ABB, making the highest energy efficiency motor, 99.15%. Which means losses only of 0.85%. That motor is used by Tata Steel in India. It saves over a lifetime of 25 years more than $6 million of energy, electricity cost. And it was only 3.5 months of payback. So you don't need a kind of there's not a long sales pitch discussion. You can probably argue why did you sell it so cheap? But that's this is a great business case. But customer of Tata Steel, they were not aware that this was possible. So this was an upgrade of an existing facility. So again, for me, that is more of you can say that's our job to sell technology that exists, but I think also to creating this awareness across industries, that's it, and also with some of the regulation, looking at especially areas where it's a long chain and many people or many parties involved. There I would highlight the importance of regulations, because it's, again, the ones who buy the equipment, if that's not the person that will use it, they then we say, just buy it as cheap as possible, and somebody else can deal with the energy bill later on.
Thank you, Morten. And Laura, if I may go back to you, because as Morten says, and I agree, there's often a very good business case for the efficiency investment, but it doesn't necessarily happen. And then you were talking a bit about the asks that the CEOs have of governments and the suggestions. And my question is, what is the role of policy here? When there is a clear business case, when it almost should be policy neutral, if you like, the kind of things we're talking about. And I noted that you mentioned a call for stable regulation. You didn't call for more regulation or less regulation. I probably would have been surprised at the call if it was for more regulation, less surprised if it was a call for less, but you call for stability. But what is the role of policy here?
So I think, first of all, I mean, Morten was saying, it's also about helping the industry, helping bridge the CapEx and the OpEx side, helping bridge the fact that there are different actors out there, and that if we don't have something to incentivize people to talk and collaborate, then this is not happening. An example that I'd like to give, I was in Morocco actually 2 days ago, and I was exchanging with the Minister of Energy there, and they were saying, we're really trying, and this is something they're working with the private sector on, we're really trying to see how we can put incentives and subsidy systems that are not based on the kilowatt hour of green energy that you produce, where you get your subsidies, but actually also on the kilowatt hour of energy that you're not using.
Interesting.
And we want to be able to value this the same way, because all this is the same amount of CO2 that you don't emit. And so starting to think that way and to actually incentivize energy saving the same way as you incentivize green energy is, for example, a way of putting that buck back in the top of the agenda. I'd like to also maybe discuss about different ways we saw in the work we do, the way government and policymakers can come in and help. An example was, we were in Brazil with the world's largest pulp and paper producer, and they produce a huge amount of waste steam in their process, huge. And they were thinking, okay, what can we do with that steam in order not to waste it? And so we put a big, very efficient steam turbine to it to be able to produce electricity from that, which is actually renewable electricity that comes from the steam that comes from the pulp and paper process. Thanks to that, they've been able to completely power their whole processes in this huge plant only from this excess steam. And half of it, so this is 500 megawatt, half of it they actually resell into the grid as renewable energy. And this is where working with the government, with the policymakers, to be able to capture that value that is created and create this new business for this paper and paper industry is where we can really get support in terms of policy and public-private partnerships.
Thank you very much. Let me turn to Ursula based on that, because we're talking here about what drives investment and what is the role of policy, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think, first of all, a clear business case that really shows black ink on white paper. There is a return on investment from this, drives investment ultimately, right? And there is often a misconception, even though countries are investing, public sector is investing in Poland, in Europe, in other countries in the world, into all kinds of aid, subsidies, mechanisms, schemes to improve energy efficiency. We know it it's never going to be enough. There needs to be a good business case behind a project. And I think this is what ultimately drives investment. And for this, what helps is to have clear strategy. In the European Union, we have national energy and climate plans, and energy efficiency as one pillar of those national energy and climate plans. So we have to plan first at the country level, how much energy we're going to save, and when, and what is the source of investment. And that really helps to focus and to show there will be some public funding, there will be certain mechanisms using the public funding, but that's not all. There needs to be a private sector that also joins in, and the private sector needs to have a clear business case. And where we have to improve is to provide information to help build those business cases. I think this is what we need to do as governments, and there is a big role, I think, of governments to help drive that clarity. And then this combination of public-private investment will start working, because ultimately, just logically, there needs to be a good business case. There is a good business case in saving. This is an efficient way of lowering your costs, and every single company looks at the bottom line and wants to have their gross margins higher, among others, by lowering their costs. And this is the way to deliver this. So I think there are quite big aspects of that, and I'm really glad we have the framework in the European Union in the national energy and climate plans, to think about this and to plan this out long term. So this is one. But there are also some great examples of private investment, private loan-back investment into the grid, into sector coupling. Sectors can cooperate and support each other within this. So you mentioned this great examples of using a byproduct, steam in one sector to support stabilize another. That's exactly what we're working on in the district heating.
I was going to say that. In Poland, you guys are amazing on this topic.
On one hand, it's a huge troubled sector because it's really dependent on coal still. Almost 70% of it is dependent on coal. But then we have amazing examples where funding, a public subsidy from European Union joined with innovation, a great technical thought of a public innovative agency, and then a private sector, very old coal-dependent district heating appliance that has been transformed within 18 months from literally start to finish into a very cost-effective, very energy-efficient, state-of-the-art facility in district heating. And we then, the business case of it was scaled by the designers and technicians behind it. And we learned that actually there is a clear business case in transforming other old, coal-powered facilities like this into 100% green facilities. There is a technology and there is business case in this, and that's doable. It's just the upfront investment, that upfront impetus that was needed, and it was co-funded by European Union with some private sector addition, and it really worked. And we can see it now in numbers, and we can scale it up in other facilities like this. So there's some great examples out there. Again, thank you for helping us to put those examples into the latest toolkit. And I think this is the way to go. We just need to go faster.
Great. No, that's a great message. Minister Ramos, thank you, Ursula. Minister Ramos, one of the themes we've been discussing in the last couple of days is that this wider lens for efficiency. So efficiency is central to climate change, and of course the doubling target comes from COP and is seen as a key pillar of early action on climate. But efficiency also has great benefits in terms of energy affordability, competitiveness, energy security, and I know that these issues are something that are on your mind as well.
Yeah, well, from the Chilean perspective, we do believe that energy efficiency policies can be a clear bridge between the climate change policies, for one hand, and the economic competitiveness and resilience, on the other hand, especially in times of uncertainty and volatility. When we talk about the company's level, the energy efficiency can produce a lot of desirable effects, like reducing the cost of production or mitigate the exposure to the fluctuations of energy price, and of course enhances the competitiveness, particularly from the sectors that are energy intensive in Chile, especially in the mining sector, but also transportation and manufacturing. And under our energy efficiency law, the large energy consumers are legally required to implement certified energy management systems and report their consumptions and their performance to the government. This enables data-driven management, where companies can identify operational optimization that stabilize energy while maintaining or even increasing production levels. On the other hand, the efficiency also plays a systematic role in resilience, because energy efficiency reduces vulnerability for both households and the national energy system as a whole. For families, for example, building standards and appliance labeling allowed to up to 30% savings on heating and cooling costs, directly supporting household budget and during inflationary periods. But I would like to highlight that in Chile, the energy policies are state policies, and when we talk about state policies, we talk about long-term goals. And these long-term goals in Chile are respected by the current governments, and are respected because they are designed by wide agreement between the public sector, the private sector, the academy, the universities, and also the civil society. And therefore, we work especially with the private sector, for example, developing and implementing efficiency standards or promoting innovation and cultivate skilled workforce. But equally important, we are promoting public-private investment in critical infrastructure, I mean hospitals, public schools, where efficiency improvements generate not only energy savings, but also better public service and social co-benefits and employment. So to conclude, I would like to say that's why we believe that energy efficiency must be framed as a shared investment, one that strengthens the long-term stability, competitiveness, and resiliency of our economies.
Thank you very much, Minister. So Panellists, thanks to you all. I'm very glad we had this special moment. This whole conference has been calls to action, but we really wanted to capture a moment where we heard back from the different perspectives from business and from government and exchange on some of the really exciting discussions we had. And it's really great to get the feedback from the roundtables that have been held. And we're looking forward to seeing what's coming out of these in terms of the ministerial statement that you'll see shortly and the CEO statement. And of course, there's many other dimensions to this. And so please join me in thanking our four excellent panelists. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. And colleagues, we are coming towards what I'm describing as the formal close of the 10th Annual Conference, but I do want to remind you there are lots of really interesting thematic and special events this afternoon on a range of topics, buildings, industry, grids, many other things. They'll be in this room and in other rooms, and you have those. We hope to see you in the schedule. But now we're going to have a very special address. This has been a real privilege. This is our 10th Annual Conference, but it's our biggest and most significant, and that's in no small part thanks to one particular individual who you've heard me say has been a champion of energy efficiency in many contexts, but also of this particular conference over many years. And this year, he's our formal co-host, and him and his team, I have to say, have been excellent partners and excellent collaborators. We've been delighted to be here in Brussels. So please join me in welcoming the Commissioner for Energy and Housing, Dan Jorgensen.
Thank you so much, Brian, and I want to thank also you personally and the IEA, and of course my dear friend Fatih Birol for arranging this conference, not only this year but doing it every year for 10 years now, and hopefully for many decades also in the future. I must say that yesterday evening, after a full day of great sessions here, it struck me how fantastic it is that we can meet stakeholders from all over the world in these very challenging times, with only one shared focus, which is to deliver action on a common, very, very important agenda. If you look in the Cambridge Dictionary, it defines efficiency as the quality of working well without wasting time or energy. Very fitting for these couple of days, I think. And what I am struck with is that the analysis is very clear. So contrary to so many other different elements of the green transition where we have different opinions, stakeholders might disagree which technology is best here, which is there, what is the actual analysis, how fast do we need to go, a lot of the hen and the egg type of argumentations. Contrary to that, in the field of energy efficiency, there's a lot of consensus. We all know how important it is that we put energy efficiency first. We all know how important it is that we find the right framework conditions for this to happen. We even all agree more or less, I would say, what it is that needs to be done. And that gives me a lot of hope. As you all know, we in the European Union, within the last 5 years or so, have really adopted some quite transformative legislation that is now being implemented that will fundamentally upgrade our energy efficiency efforts. At the same time, we also have to admit that our target is 11.7%. Don't ask me how we got to that specific number. That's how negotiations are. But nonetheless, that is a very ambitious target. But right now, if we add up the national energy and climate plans of our member states, and we've just done that in an assessment report, it looks as if we are only on track to reach 8%. So we need to step up, and we will do so. And I've been very happy to hear the many very engaged speakers participating in the events that I've been a part of, also really committing to helping us in the European Union make this happen. But this needs to be also a global effort, obviously. We in Europe are not only concentrating on our own development and acknowledging that we need to do more, we also want to help partners. It'll be of mutual benefit, obviously, for these partnerships to flourish. Our global gateway engagement, which will entail investments of hundreds of millions of euros in infrastructure that is either directly related to energy efficiency or indirectly, is really something that can make a difference also. So, bottom line, I really hope that you all, even though this session is actually not finished yet, I thought I was going to close the conference, but I'm only just happy to hear that you have several other meetings this afternoon. But I think that when you go home, I would be extremely happy if you would all leave with a sense of positive optimism, because whether we're talking about fighting climate change, decarbonizing our economies, whether we're talking about security of supply, whether we're talking about more hardcore security, getting independence from Russian fuel as we're fighting to get in Europe, or whether we're talking about cutting the prices of the energy bills for our citizens, fighting energy poverty, or indeed whether we're talking about increasing the competitiveness of our companies. The answer, in the end, is always the same. It starts with energy efficiency. It starts with energy efficiency. So with those words, I thank you once again.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, colleagues, and enjoy the lunch break now and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you all.